You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, good-looking, which always looking for and finding the good. We have good in abundance today. Oh, your cup runneth over with good. It may not be the good that you want to hear, but it's always good when you hear the truth. And that's really the most important thing of life, isn't it? The truth is really equal to the good and the beautiful, no matter what it is, because now you can deal with life as it really is. And that's, of course, what the Joy of Living podcast is all about. And you've tuned in consciously and conscientiously to your humble host, Barry Shore, for one reason and one reason only, because you care the most in the entire world about you. Y-O-U. And that's great, by the way, because when you're the best you make the world a better place. You can build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And the result of you learning the three fundamentals, which we discuss on this show, and using them, internalizing, leveraging them, you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. We're going to speak a lot about your wealth today. Happier, healthy, and wealthy. Now, of course, at the moment, by the way, you should know that you've tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the show that is listened to worldwide. And at this moment, we have over 348,613 people around the world listening. By the time we bring on our amazing guest, Peter Nolan, our dear friend, we'll be over 350 plus thousand people listening around the world. So you're in good company. Now, the three fundamentals of life, of course, that we deal with in this show are, number one, life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number two happens. Now, in this case, the good number two, and that is you go mad. You lead a purpose-driven life, you go mad. Mad stands for you make a difference in life. And number three is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Everyday words and terms. Simple example. Right now, as I said, this program is being carried around the world, people listening all over the world on this magical, mystical platform called the internet. If you have to ask anybody, what does www stand for? Invariably, it has to do with the internet. And factually speaking, they're correct. But in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And what is a word, right? W-H-A-T-A. And of course, whenever you hear the opening bars of that amazing song, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, thank you, Satchmo, and it's gone around the world and touched not just tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet, you can't help but smile, right? And that's what happened. You hear that world, it's a great song. You smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you could ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life, because smile is an acronym that stands for seeing miracles in life every day. Seeing miracles in life every day. Simplest example, 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or you're listening to this, you didn't. Therefore, you have an obligation to live your life to the full, live exuberantly. Oh, fun, short story. Most people here, thank God, 320, 30,000 people always tuning in. You're bringing your friends, but there's always 20, 30,000 people don't know the story of Barry Shore. Imagine standing up in the morning, hale and hearty, able to leave tall buildings in a single bound, and that evening being in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed. And it was not for an automobile accident, not a spinal injury. A rare disease took over my body I never heard of the day before and rendered me what's called a quadriplegic, completely paralyzed my neck down. All I could do was blink my eyes. 144 days in the hospital, 2 years in a hospital bed in my own home. I couldn't turn over by myself. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. I had braces on both my legs, my hips to my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. I still can't walk up a stair by myself. I can't walk up a curb by myself. And I've helped 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, all because of this one word. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Now, when I speak to groups, and thank God we're doing that in person again, just recently I spoke to a group about 1,123 people, and I'm telling the story about Barry Shore, and people raising their hands and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours where I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can't barely do that. Do you have water to drink? Do you have food to eat? Do you have a place to sleep? Do you have family? Do you have friends? Every one of those is a miracle. And again, the simple proofs, 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning because they died, but you didn't. But I got to tell you a quick story. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago and says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile S-M-I-E-L? And I thought about it. I said, smile, why not? It sounds the same. I asked her how it comes. She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. Out of the mouth of babes. So what was she doing? She's creating the kind of world that she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a great acronym that stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. That's what we're going to be doing today also. You're going to have to shift some of your thinking. Now, shift is an amazing word. When I do my public speaking very often, thousands and thousands of people. And I tell them, for some reason, people end up dropping the F in shift and the other stuff happens. You got to really be careful to keep your F and F's in place. Shift perspective. And the way to do that is understand the 6 most important words in your life. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. When you learn information, you hear transformative information, what are you going to do about it? Your choice of action is really the key. And that's what we're going to be speaking about in just a couple of minutes. I introduce you to our dear friend who comes on, thank God, every quarter and helps us understand about the economy, wonderful Peter Nolan. Before we do that, I just want to urge everybody to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day, consciously and conscientiously, today and the rest of your life. And these 2 words are, of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and network kindness. To harmonize and network kindness. The Dalai Lama has been quoted as saying, read in his writings, be kind whenever possible. And he said, it's always possible. So you go back in your coffee shop and you order your fancy latte. Somebody brings it to you, you say, thank you. Imagine you go to the coffee shop, you order a fancy latte, you sit there a couple of minutes, nothing happens. You go to the counter and say, oh, I'm sorry, we forgot, we're busy. We'll bring it to you. Sit down, a couple of minutes, go by, somebody brings it. You still say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop, it's raining out, somebody holds the door open for you. You say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop, it's raining out, somebody slams the door on you. You say, that's right, thank you. You're in traffic, you're late for an appointment, somebody cut you off. You say, thank you. Get up in the middle of the night and you stub your toe and it hurts. You say, thank you. To harmonize and network kindness. There's nobody that I want to introduce to you right now who is kind, by the way, stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. And this person really does inspire noble deeds. He's going to teach us a lot about the economy, about money. And it's our dear friend, Peter Nolan. Peter!
Hey, Barry.
Please say hello to 353,822 people around the world.
Well, hello, everyone, and hello to you, Barry. Great to see you.
And nice to be seen, and good to see you sporting your new hirsute suit.
As I told Barry earlier, my wife doesn't like it, so it's going to go.
Yeah, it's going away for Father's. That's his Father's Day gift today. Now, we don't usually date the podcasts we do because they live for decades, maybe even millennia, centuries of millennia. But I want to do it today because today is the 2nd of June. It's the year 2022. And in America, there is, in my humble opinion, crisis with a small c at the moment. And we're going to be focusing with Peter, as is our wont, on the economy. As I said, there is crisis with a small c. And I'm going to ask Peter, I will have to tell the audience, for those of you who don't remember, even though, thank God, when I told people and announced that you're going to be coming back, we have thousands of people who say, well, that's great. I like that guy. They didn't say your name. They said, I like that guy. So it was very interesting because Peter is the best way to describe him. He's a wonderful person. He's a good husband. He's a great father. He's a good friend. He is an astute and capable businessman, generous person. He was an Eagle Scout. He went to Cornell. We won't hold that against him. And he does two things that I think are very important for establishing bona fides for this show. And that is that he is a senior advisor to a company that has a plus or minus $50 billion venture fund, investing fund. But even more important is he has his own family office, thank God, very successful, and he puts his own money where his mouth is. So he does, we'll call him the Warren Buffett way. He looks for operating companies that do well, and he invests in them, meaning investing in people, but operating companies, things that do business. So he puts his money where his mouth is, and that's really something special. He's on the line. He's out there knowing what's happening. He has to keep his pulse on the economy because he just invested some large amount of money in business, and he doesn't want it to go south. He wants to succeed. So with that as an introduction, Peter, let's touch upon what I say the crisis, thank God at the moment with the small c, but it is looming larger. It might be a tsunami, and that is the twin or the triple sisters, sometimes not even good ones, of inflation, which is here, potential recession, and the rise of interest rates. So that's a lot on your plate, kid. But let's just start with the big I. Tell us your take on inflation, where it is, where it's going, and what it means for real human beings and just people doing well, whether they were earning 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, 5 million. It doesn't matter. People working hard. What happens to their money with inflation? What can we do about it?
Well, Barry, thanks for that intro. We last time we talked was before Russia had invaded Ukraine, and I think at that time, there was a theme that you and I discussed that I was saying that I see a lot more inflation out there than the government is seeing, and I was very concerned about it. I think, and again, I would say that last time we talked, I saw some fairly clear directional things that I believed was going to happen. And I'm not an economist. I'm not a Fed watcher. I'm just out there as an investor and a business person. So, I'm not going to say what's going to happen or what the Fed's going to do because I really don't know. But I think we're in a period of time which I would describe as very unclear. And you're seeing that, the leaders of the major banks, Jamie Dimon at J.P. Morgan and Waldron at Goldman Sachs, and you see very, very mixed predictions of what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's an extraordinarily difficult time to figure out what's going to happen. I would say that generally my belief is that we've had such rapid growth of inflation, and I don't think it will continue. I think the government and the Federal Reserve has woken up, and therefore I don't think they're going to push it like they were. But inflation is horrible. It's a tax. It's a tax by the government on anyone that has an income or anyone that owns certain assets. And the thing that when we last talked, I continue to say, I think the consumer is going to be under increasing stress. I have a pickup truck, and it was over $200 to fill up my pickup truck the other day, right? $200, and you have to actually either put in one credit card and use a different one because the pump doesn't allow you to go over $120.
I was going to ask you, the pump only goes to a certain number.
Yeah, it used to only go to $100, and then they moved it to $120 or $125, and so now, $200, and I just can't help but thinking about the guy or the family that, their income's gone up a little bit. There has been upward wage pressure, but that's swamped by the costs that people confront. transportation costs, food costs, utilities, rent, everything has gone up. And so when in fact there was a real push to give everyone a raise, give them a raise. But what happened is that was an illusion almost, because the raise gets swallowed up by the inflation monster. And so people now have less spending power than they did, even though their nominal income went up or their nominal wage went up. What they can buy, what matters is what they can buy. Whenever it's always funny whenever you see someone saying, "Well, I used to be able to buy a candy bar for a nickel, and look at what I pay now. I don't even know what a candy bar costs, but let's say you pay $1, and look what's happened." Well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it was a nickel. It matters how many hours did you have to work to buy that candy bar? That's what matters, right?
Mhm.
So what's happened in the United States, because over the years, is because of technological improvements and everything else, things have become relatively cheaper for the past, almost 40 years until now. And now what's happened is, through a combination of things, and no, it's not just the war in Ukraine. This was happening well, and we called it well before Russia went into Ukraine.
Mhm.
There's a whole variety of reasons. There's been the supply chain disruptions because of COVID. Everyone came back to work and they're spending money, but also the government injected, and the Federal Reserve injected a tremendous amount of money into the system. And so you have people had during 2021 in particular, they really started to have a lot of excess cash, and they spent it. And that drove up the prices of things. There was scarcity items, but there was also too many dollars chasing too few goods, which is
The classic definition.
yeah, and that's inflation, right? And it's not just the United States; it's everywhere. Europe's inflation is running slightly ahead of ours. Canada is running slightly behind ours. So all the governments have basically inflated their currency. And it's understandable, right? We had this, once in our lifetime pandemic. The whole world shut down simultaneously. And so these governments decided this was the time to basically flood the economy with dollars. And in many cases, it was free dollars. And all the economies did this to basically stimulate their economy so that they didn't go into a recession, depression during the shutdown. But the thing that I think that the governments have done is they didn't get off the crack. They just kept it going. They kept the party going. They said, "This is a great party. It's working well. Let's keep doing it. Let's spend more money and let's print more money." And now we're finally paying the price.
Speaking, I want to unpack a few things here because you use some very important words that I think touch the human condition. Number one, you called inflation a monster. And it really is, because it gobbles up people's hard-earned money faster than you can make it. And that creates a mindset for people thinking, well, gee, I think I should use my money rather than save or even invest, because I need to get it while it's still available. And the classic, and I think you used a beautiful word here, two other words. One is, you said, of course, it's a tax without having to send it to Washington, but it causes stress, not just stress on the economic system, causes stress on the individual, the family unit, the business environment. And then you used a great word. You said what happened was that the printing of the initial giving of money, which people applauded and said, "Oh, that's so good, we'll do that," and help people out, that created an illusion And we know what illusions really are. They are just that. They're illusions. And if you believe in illusion, then you're not going to be able to function well in life, let alone in an economic situation at the moment. So I think you've touched on something very, very important. And again, in very human terms, I want to say something to the point that you just spoke here about. You believe, hopefully, that the government, the current administration, Biden administration, which is heavily Democratic and obviously and controls all branches of government except for the Supreme Court, which nobody's supposed to control. But the drivers are such that it appears at the moment that Mr. Biden is not really himself in control. He's not a strong, controlling president as such. And he just wrote an article, an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, which is published. And in there, he actually relinquishes control of inflation, even though he said it's his number one priority to face. He said it's really the Federal Reserve's responsibility. So he's abdicated that. By the same token, thank God, and this goes to your point, Janet Yellen, who was our Treasury Secretary and a former head of the Federal Reserve, has just gone on radio, television, any place that will listen to her on the internet yesterday and said, I made a mistake. Which, by the way, isn't it amazing? And a government official admitting to error. I mean, in and of itself, that's a once in a lifetime exam, something as big as the lockdown and such, you can say it. But the fact that she is either falling on her sword or recognizing that she did make a mistake by downplaying the role which you and I so eloquently talked about months ago, that they were down, they didn't want to say it. They didn't want to admit to it. So now she's admitting. So I say that is probably, to go to your point, that is potentially an encouraging situation. By the same token, it's up to the Fed. Now, what if the Fed raises rates too much? For instance, right now, what used to be able to get a mortgage on a house for what, 3.5%, right? I think the mortgage rates today are 5 to 5.25%.
Right.
That causes a slowdown in the housing market.
Right.
That's not particularly healthy either for the housing market or for the business world.
Right.
So we
had a lot of bubbles that were driven by a number of factors, right? We had a housing bubble, we had a stock market bubble, we had just incredible appreciation and value in a lot of different areas. And look, I'm encouraged that the problem that the people in Washington have is they have boxed themselves into a corner, and there really isn't a good way out, at least in my opinion. In other words, you want to deliver, rainbows and candy to your voters. And you can do that. In the short term, you can print a bunch of money and hand it out, or you can have a new spending bill and give people all sorts of stuff, free stuff. And you're seeing that right now with the attempt to basically forgive student loans, right? Its purpose is to deliver something that excites the population, the constituency. But the problem is that you've run out of tools. The Fed's balance sheet in 2019, and you can it's actually just Google Federal Reserve balance sheet, and there's actually a very, very understandable graph. And I have to attribute this to Warren Buffett. In his annual meeting, he talked about this. In 2019, the Fed's balance sheet had 3.7 trillion with a T of assets on it. Today, it's close to 9 trillion.
Oh,
they haven't. So this is call it 3 years later. They haven't really shrunk the balance sheet at all, and they really don't have the capacity to expand it at all. So I look, I don't. The problem is, and this is probably a little disappointing, is I don't know what you do other than struggle through it. And what you do is the Fed has to raise interest rates. And, I really hope that Congress and the White House don't pass some massive stimulus spending bill and tax increases, because they've talked about that, and I just don't see that that's going to help the economy at all. The best thing the government can do is get out of the way and let the economy rebalance, and we're going to have pain. It's interesting, you see that we have still record low unemployment, but in a lot of ways, I think we're on an aircraft carrier, and we're in the ocean, and the aircraft carrier is moving, but the screws, the propellers that move the aircraft carrier, they've slowed down a lot, and we're still coasting on inertia. And my belief is eventually that inertia will come home to roost. You're starting to see companies, we've gone through a period since 2020 where you couldn't hire people. And that's why wages went up, right? There was a shortage of labor, so more dollars had to chase the labor, and it was very difficult to hire people. And that was one of the biggest complaints we saw last year. And we still have very low unemployment, but you're starting to see companies shed employees. Netflix. I mean, Netflix stock.
Let's talk about that for a moment. Only because
today's at 200. It's lost, well over half its value in 6-7 months, and you're just going to see that the consumer is going to be stressed, right? You have to pay for your food, you have to pay for your gas, you have to pay for your housing, and that's now soaks up most of people's budgets that don't have a lot of excess earnings, and most of the country doesn't. So you have to start cutting back. You have to cut back on discretionary items, right? You have to cut back on entertainment. You have to cut back on travel. You have to cut back on clothes. You have to cut back on certain items and
even certain food items.
Yeah, sure. No, you're going to go to,
right.
Again, we talked about it. I used to work in a grocery store in Syracuse, New York, stocking shelves in the 70s when I was in high school. And, I'd come in and I'd have to raise prices every time I came into work, right? They'd hand me a price list and I have to go clean the old price off the cans of soup or whatever. And I had to put a new price on it. And what happened during that time is you saw an explosion in this new phenomenon called private label. Before the 70s inflationary period, grocery stores really didn't carry private label brands. Like, think if you go to Costco, the Kirkland brand, that's a private label brand that's owned by Costco. And what you saw was a proliferation during the 70s. Like, I'll never forget, you'd have a Kraft macaroni and cheese, right? It's that box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. And then you'd have a white box that was, I worked at a grocery store called Loblaws, and there was the Loblaws macaroni and cheese, and the Kraft was, call it 25 cents a box, and the Loblaws was 19 cents a box. And so people had to trade down. Instead of buying Kraft, they bought Loblaws if they bought macaroni and cheese. And so instead of buying, steak, you're going to have pasta or you're going to have rice or something like that. Your choices will change, and it's not fun. And so I just think, look, on our last time we talked before the invasion of Ukraine, I said I was very concerned about a recession. I'm just not sure how they get out of this.
On that wonderful note, on that high note, uplifting, we're going to go to, well, thank God we still have sponsors that love us and pay to be here, because when Peter talks, people listen. if you remember that kind of stuff. And we'll be right back after this short break. Don't go away, because there's more Peter Nolan. He's going to give us some good stuff on the other side, we hope. Good day, everyone. Barry Short here. So happy to be discussing with you today a plant-based, high-quality, protein, organic superfood called Organifi, Organifi. Organifi. I use it. I ordered it. I sought them out. I'm so glad to be urging everybody to try and use this remarkable high-quality food product. The story is two wonderful people, Drew and Jamal, who in 2014 joined forces together to find the best possible high-quality superfood blends. Took them 52 different tries before they got it right. And I'm telling you, they hit on something that is revolutionizing the world. Your world, your health. This is the best, the most powerful, positive, purposeful, pleasant, high-quality superfood you could ever have. That's as simple as it. You know, I swim 2 miles a day, 6 days a week. I use this to restore and regenerate my being, and I feel better for it. You can't go wrong. You must find your way to the website and use this product. I want you to go to Organifi, Organifi.com, Organifi.com. And when you go there, you're going to put in the code LIVING, capital LIVING, living, and you're going to get 20% off your first order. This is stuff that you're going to want to have for you, your family. You're going to tell your friends, everybody, this is health. This is good health. This is great health. Organifi.com. Please go there. You'll thank me for it. You'll be jumping up and down and telling the world. Go to Organifi.com, put in the code LIVING, capital L, capital I, VING, and get 20% off. And I look forward to getting many, many comments and emails from you saying, thank you, Barry Short. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, good-looking, because you're always looking for and finding the good. We have good in abundance. Now, it may not be the good that you think, because it's all fluff and great, and gee, isn't it wonderful to think positive and purposeful? Yes, Peter's delivering reality, truth. Okay, it's subjective, because nobody knows, as he said before. It's unclear. Now, interesting, you know, I love to work with words, Peter. Unclear, the same letters spell nuclear. So we could be in a nuclear situation as well as an unclear situation. Oh my gosh, think of that. So we're back now. We're going to talk about the R word, but just before that, I had prepared some things, and you mentioned about the Fed balance sheet in 2019 being at 3.7 trillion. That's a T. People can't ever count that high in 17 lifetimes, but think about that. I just want to make mention of, on the other side, July 11th, 2019 also, the stock market for the first time in history hit 27,000 Dow. That's only 3 years ago. Now, nobody wants to see a 27,000 Dow again. I don't even want to see a 29. But it could happen. I mean, that's a possibility. I want to mention two other things that President Biden did write about. He wrote this in his op-ed. Now, let's be blunt. He didn't write it, but he approved it. He put his name on it. And in there, he mentioned three things. One is that it's up to the Fed to control inflation. Happens to be that we are now in the lowest economic confidence rating in the Economic Confidence Index, the lowest rating ever. Okay, data point. But the president wants to spend hundreds of billions of dollars more. He's not giving up. He's going to be pushing his agenda. He wants to spend not just more money, hundreds of billions more. And he wants to raise taxes on business. Now, I'm just a person. You're out there in the world, Peter. You're dealing with big money and lots of people that are influential. To me, that doesn't bode well for an economy, and it could turn us into this R world of recession.
Well, there's a competing economic philosophy, right? So the Keynesian, so-called Keynesian philosophy is that if the government spends more money, that stimulates the economy, even though you have to either tax people or borrow or print money in order to spend more. And there's a belief that that's a somewhat of a free ride, that you can create wealth for everyone by having the government just spend more money one way or another. I'm not of that school. I'm not of that. I just never bought that. And what happens is that if you all of a sudden start to raise taxes and spend more money, in my opinion, first off, I think it's stupid. I think it's really it's a terrible idea. And I don't think right now, and I really don't know anything about politics, but it doesn't strike me that there's going to be the the political will to vote that in right now, but we'll see. We'll see. You never know what they're going to come up with. And the problem is that, it's kind of like there is a natural human reaction to do something. So there's inflation. What are you going to do? There's a recession. What are you going to do? And this would be to tell your supporters or other people that, look, I've done something. The Federal Reserve, they control the monetary supply, which is indirectly controls interest rates. They, in my opinion, I don't think they fully control interest rates because the market controls interest rates. But they do control the ins and out of the currency. Is there more dollars flooding the market or less dollars flooding the market? How easy is it to provide currency into the marketplace? But I think this is strictly almost a knee-jerk reaction to my approval rating is terrible. The economy is on everyone's mind. It's the single top issue in everyone's mind. And so I need to do something. I don't want to get off topic, but it's sort of like you had these horrific shootings, and now people want to do something about shootings. And let's not get into all that, but that's a do something reaction. So everyone in Washington can go back and say, well, we tried, we did this. And I think at times you have to let the market work its way through and stay out of the way. And what, in my opinion, the Fed needs to raise interest rates. They need to shrink their balance sheet. And Washington needs to basically let the market correct. And it's not going to be pretty. And none of us, there's really, we're backed into a corner where there's no elegant solution. There's no easy solution. There's only lesser of evils. And the question in my mind is what Washington wants to do, if in fact they do put through a big tax increase and a big spending bill, are they actually throwing gasoline on the fire? And I believe that would throw gasoline on the fire. I think that would make a bad situation worse. And it's truly unfortunate. We didn't have to be in this position. But again, it's kind of like we were all at the party. The government had the open bar and they left the bar open too long. And they started passing out tequila shots when everyone should have been driving home. And as a result, we're going to have some car wrecks.
Unfortunately, I think your analogy is all too easy to picture, that open bar at the wedding or the party, and people doing that and losing inhibitions and acting incorrectly, and there'll be a lot of car wrecks. Let's go back to some of the other words you used. First of all, you're right. Knee-jerk reaction is something that happens, in my humble opinion, I'm 73 now, more in the teenage years and the early 20s in a human being. We tend to hope and pray and think that people mature and tend not to that. And yet what you're saying is, don't be fooled by the longevity of certain people chronologically. They will act as knee-jerk as possible, and because they're playing to constituents, like you just said. The canceling of student debt is so obvious a ploy to literally buy votes that it sort of creates a mindset of saying, is there anybody responsible here? Is there an adult in the room? Now, it turns out that maybe one or two in Washington. We named that the senator from West Virginia and such, who, thank God, has been keeping the Democratic Party at least within certain boundaries. Instead of a country lane, it's an 8-lane highway, but at least there's something there. But you use the word stupid also, and I don't think you said it just in a flippant way. I think if you were in your boardroom now for whatever company or companies you were working with or managing, and people came in and made their reports and gave information, and they gave you the data that was being given to you, and you looked at it, you would probably analyze it, think about it, and not just fly off the handle. You'd probably say the same thing. Well, this is stupid. You made dumb mistakes. And now let's look at it. There's going to be some pain. Maybe some people lose their jobs, rightfully so, but there'll be some pain. Now, what do we do to make sure that we don't continue stupidity? And like you said, put gasoline on a raging fire that could go out of control. It could go out of control. And if things go out of control, it's not just recession. We won't use any stronger term than that. But the pain is so widespread, because you said so eloquently, this is not just America. We're talking about touching the world, because we're the strongest. We are the reserve currency of the world, the strongest economy in the world by far. And yes, there is a war in Russia, in Ukraine, and they're bad actors, but that is not what brought us here. What brought us here is increasing inability to face true business decisions in a responsible way. Am I saying it accurately?
Yeah, you don't get elected by telling the population there's going to be some tough medicine.
Right. That would get Trump elected, right?
Right. What you're, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. As a politician, you want to make people happy, right? You want to make your constituents happy. You want to make the voters happy. You want to get reelected. You want to be popular. That's one of the reasons that very difficult situations are kicked down the road. The can is kicked down the road. Whether it's Social Security liability or just overall spending, you can just make it someone else's problem and get reelected. And that's the reason, I'm just not sure what they're going to be able to do to get us out of the hole. And so I think it's going to be, and you're seeing this in the public marketplace, and I think it's going to be tough, very tough. When I talk to people in other areas in real estate, they're saying there's definitely a big slowdown. There's venture capital, huge slowdown, because venture capital, for example, you invest in technology-related companies that you sell to the big companies that have big valuations that need to grow. well, if their valuations are declining, there's going to be less buyers out there for the business that you've been growing. So I just think we're in a very tough spot, and I don't see us getting out of it easily.
So let's take a look at something, because I'm going to end up on a note here. Our time goes by so fast. I've been reading where there are a number of, I won't call them economists, but business people orient say, yes, it's going to be painful during the summer, but by the fourth quarter, by November, December, we're going to have a roaring stock market again. Okay, I'm just giving you information that I've been reading lately. And I'm scratching my head and looking like you. I look at a particular number of what I call bellwether kinds of stocks, things that people do or did. Netflix, as you mentioned, as an example. I mean, to lose half of its value, that's hundreds of millions of dollars. Meta lost $500 million worth of value over the past few years. Peloton is another good example of a high flyer that is having to go out and scramble to succeed in the public market still and to be maintaining ongoing business. And recently, these SPAC companies, which you and I spoke about a year ago when we did one of our shows, and I labeled it, what do I call it, speculation posing as creativity. A lot of these SPAC companies now are underwater, and they're issuing, because they're public, going concern of, do we have enough funds to continue going? And so you're going to see, like you said, pain. Let's say there is pain. Is it pain for 3 months, 6 months? Are we talking about pain, real pain that, let's say, like a 2008 kind of pain that could be a couple of years?
Could be. Yeah, could be. I don't know, right? I mean,
right. We're talking about
unclear. The hard thing about the future is predicting the future. It's extraordinary. If everyone knew, right? It's
right, like Kentucky Derby winner, huh?
Right. You know the long shot's you would have bought the tickets if you knew the long shot was going to win.
Right.
It's extraordinarily difficult, and that's I'd say the big investing is conceptually easy, except when you actually go do it, it's extraordinarily difficult. Now, when the tide is rising and all boats are lifted, it's not that hard. Right. And no matter what you invest in, we've had a period of time where we've had just phenomenal growth. And now there's, the great reconciliation, the great recalibration is going on as we speak. And I can't, again, I'm not an economist. And so I can't go out and make a prediction. I can only tell you what we're seeing, and I think it's just going to be tough. And how long it's going to be, it could be, it's funny. I bought a farm a number of years ago, and the first year we bought the farm, California had about, pick a number, 30 inches of rain. And I'll never forget, I was talking to one farmer, and I said, well, I hope it rains next year. And he goes, it could maybe not rain very much for the next 10 years. You just don't know. And this is a long time ago. And that's what's happened is California's in a drought, and we haven't had rain for a long time. So, I think the same thing's true of the economy. Now, I have tremendous faith in the U.S. economy because we have such a great alignment of interests between businesses and people that want to create value. This is why capitalism works. Is the capitalist, unlike someone that works in a communist country, the capitalist is going to beat their brains out every night and day in order to build value for themselves and also for their shareholders. And so we have just we have an incredible economy. No, it's not perfect, but we have an incredible economy across this country, and an incredible work ethic and incredible talents. And you look at what good has come out of our capitalist system, that the politicians, certain class of politicians love to hate. Capitalism's so evil. But it's that drive that creates anywhere from a vaccine to an electric car to just the incredible things, the technology look at the technology we're using today. I just have such tremendous faith that the drive, the inherent drive of the American business person and entrepreneur in the end will succeed. So for that reason, I have longer term optimism. Short term, I predict pain.
We're going to quote your farmer, because I guess that's what it's really all about. Because there's a great song that I'm trying to find it, maybe even send it to you. I think it's Ry Cooder sings, and the farmer feeds us all. Right. Do all the different things, and the farmer feeds us all, right? So the ability for you to be sort of down home, excuse the expression, dung kicking on your back 40, and you meet your neighbor who's been there for generations, and you say, yeah, what's it like out here? Well, may not rain for years, who knows?
Right.
But he has faith that it will rain sometime, and we will have crops, and we will bring, and this is what a way to come on the crescendo. Thank you, Peter, because on another show, I'm going to ask you if you'll come back again. I love this way that you're finishing here with this faith, the idea of driven people who drive for benefit. They're not driving for greed. They're driving for benefit. They want to build value. They want to be creative. Okay, they know, hey, I could get a lot of benefit out of this. Me personally, I make a lot of money, do a lot of that, but I want to build. That's inherent in the American psyche.
The one thing I've learned in my career is you back the person that has that drive. The one that it's funny. We have a business where we run these concessions at parks, and I actually, just before this call, I called up the CEO and I said, well, where are you? And he said, well, I'm in New York. And I go, and the company's based in Missouri. And I said, well, why are you in New York? He said, because we have a park and we have a pool that we couldn't get open, and I couldn't get workers there. So I flew to New York, and I am opening this pool because we have to have this pool open. It's a short summer season. We have to have the pool open for our guests. And I hung up the phone and said, that is a guy you want to back.
Right.
Because he's got this drive, as opposed to someone else sitting at their desk and going, well, we can't open up because there's issues with the pool. This guy, his voice was hoarse. You could tell he'd been up all night, but he got the pool open. And it's a small thing, but to me, it just shows that drive. And in business, in sports, you take Tiger Woods. When Tiger Woods was done with a tournament, he used to go to the driving range and practice. He had that drive that no one else had. And you see that in sports, you see that in business, you see that in creative endeavors. The person that really succeeds is the one that has that drive beyond what the normal population has. So.
Well, on that high note, that's a great story, and I love it, and it's illustrative of you're right. What you just said, it's the American spirit, and when you find it, you back it, and that's the one that's going to win the Kentucky Derby.
Right,
outstanding at 80-1. So we have only two questions for you, Peter, and the first question is, will you come back again?
Only for you, Barry.
Thank you. We got that in writing. Well, we got it on the speech. It's recorded. And the second thing is, I was going to ask you your most fervent desire, but I think, well, we'll give you that. When you got 80 seconds, kid. What's your most fervent desire at this point in life?
Well, it's always health and happiness of our family. That's That's what matters most. But my fervent desire is that, you know, our country really starts to come together again. And I do, even though I'm pretty negative on the economy, I do hope that there's continued opportunity for everyone.
Thank you. And that's why you've tuned into The Joy of Living, their humble host, Barry Shore, and our amazing, wonderful friend and guest, Peter Nolan. And you tuned in consciously and conscientiously for one reason only, because you care the most in the entire world about you. You. You become the best you possible. You make the world a better place. And you know that when you follow the three fundamentals that we talk about on this show, which is number one, life has purpose, lead a purpose-driven life. You go mad. That's number two, make a difference. And number three is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. You will be happier, healthier, and because of Peter's information, wealthier. You'll be able to protect yourself and look for opportunity out there. Use this great word, WWW. What a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day, as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in. The people Peter just talked about. He's creating the kind of world he wants to live. He's working with people like you just heard who say, hey, I got on the plane, I'm opening up the pool. Duh. Causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. That's what you want to do in life. And you want to use the two most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day, every single day from now and the rest of your life, because it will make you better, your family, your friends, and all living beings being come together better. And these 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and network kindness. Kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. And with that, Peter, I say thank you to you. And we will Peter and I give a blessing to everybody watching, 300, now over 360,000 people around the world. Go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.